Hello, it is lesson 3, and I think it's time to reveal you one of the main secrets of chess. Having understood it over the time with all shades and nuances, uh, I was able to improve significantly my practical strengths. Uh, Here it is. Chess is a game played by two people, two players. Well, understanding all aspects of this bold hypothesis can significantly actually improve your results, your practical strengths. So let's continue the logical chain. That means that winning a game, winning of a game by a player means at the same time a loss of the other player. Um, so, in fact, there are two winning scenarios in chess, which is to win yourself or to let your opponent lose, so to say, or to force if you want your opponent to lose. Um, what do I mean by this? Well, rather simple statements. You would probably agree with me that you can win a game, and sometimes it happens with all of us without actually showing such a great play. But it's impossible to win a game without the mistake of your opponent. So in a way, the strategy of success in chess, if we generalize it, is not to make mistakes yourself, or at least to make less mistakes than your opponent, and to force him to make those mistakes. As simple as it sounds. Uh, but that also logically means that hindering the plans of your opponent, not allowing him to carry out his plan, is at least as effective as executing your own plan. Of course, this is all very general and a little bit maybe sounds too primitive and abstract, but think about it. It's actually it is true. I mean, you've probably noticed yourself that it's much more difficult to keep the same level of play when your position is kind of passive and you don't have any really clear counterplay. In fact, there are very few people, very few players in the world, even on the top level, who can keep the same strength, the same level, playing passive positions, without real, preferably active plan. So accordingly, the ability to unravel the opponent's plans and to prevent them in time is actually a sign of a very high level. It's a very difficult skill to master. But at the same time, I know by my own experience, it's one of the most difficult, if not the most difficult chess styles to fight against in a practical game. It is very effective. Believe me, it's very effective, but it's very difficult to learn and to master. I mean, it's a lifetime task, to improve in this component of chess. And this is the main goal of this course, which is I will show you a lot of practical examples explaining actually on this aspect of chess, and to explain you the logical thinking path which leads you to finding the right moves, prophylactic moves, and which leads you to prevent your opponent play. And again, as I've mentioned already, unless you are Anatoly Karpov, there is always a space for improvement in mastering this aspect. And yeah, it's a lifetime job, I would say, but that is the main goal of this course, is to improve for each of you who is listening to it, to improve this very, very important component of chess, in this very important component. I remember a story with about the legendary, Viktor Korchnoi. You know that all the chess players who played against him, and I did also many times, we all know very well that Viktor was always ready to pay a very nice compliment to his opponent, especially after defeats, but actually sometimes even after the victories. He had a very fighting character in general. So yeah, once I remember, I think it was beginning of 90s, and Viktor was playing in Europe in one tournament where the organizers, they invited the local young talented player to play as well there. Okay, I remember, I will not tell you the name of the player. He didn't become a very famous chess player finally, but in any case, it was clear already by that time that, of course, he's gifted, a nice kid, very eager to play chess, but probably doesn't have the scale of a talent of a top, I don't know, 10 player. And he was not doing extremely well in this tournament. It was a bit too strong for him at that time. So he would, this young man would lose quite many games. And then he played against Viktor Korchnoi. He also lost this game. And after the game, the local TV journalist, he came to Viktor and asked him, what does he think about this young player? And of course, well, he didn't know Viktor much, and well, it's pretty clear it was not was not a very clever thing to ask to Viktor. He's not the right person to ask such questions, because Viktor, he told, I just played the game against the young man. I won the game, and then we had a post-mortem analysis together. And I was really impressed. He sees practically everything during a game. And then after he made a small pause, and then he added, but always one move too late. So I wish you will not only see everything while playing, but also, doing it in time. How exactly? Well, I would say here the answer is simple. Yeah, you just watch this course to the end, and well, your opponent would not even dare, thinking about carrying out any sensible, constructive plan, because he would know whom he is dealing with. Yeah, but seriously, I have developed a simple thinking system, so to say, that would help you to find the right path, the right moves during a game in such situations. I will try to explain you what it is all about. As stated in the famous book Alice in Wonderland. So if you want to know where to go, you need first to understand where you want to get to. In other words, it is important to try to understand the position which you have on the board at the moment as a whole. What I mean is, to try to understand the main characteristics of the position. What are the possible, realistic, at least, plans for each players, for white and for black? What can they achieve? What are the weak strong and weak points of the position of each player, and so on and so on. Yeah. So what are the potential ideas for the next coming moves? So once you have a certain clear understanding of these objectives, yeah, which both players have in the given position, then it becomes much easier to to start to work out how exactly to achieve those objectives for you, or not to to prevent your opponent from doing so. And should not forget, that there are two players. Not only you is playing chess. Yeah, there is your opponent as well. And in my humble opinion, you should pay at least as much attention to your opponent plans and prospects as to your own. That is very important, a very important point, which I want to, and I'm sorry, I will be repeating it again and again during this course. Just that you really, get this idea and implement it kind of automatically when you play chess yourself. So I would advise you to make some kind of brainstorm, sort of scanning, as I call it, of the position during your opponent's turn. So when it's his move, especially in kind of strategical positions, not very forcing positions, or when your opponent has actually a big choice of possible moves. It often doesn't make much sense to calculate all of the possible options, especially if they are more or less equal. Yeah, in such situations, because you never really know which exactly the move which your opponent is going to play, and it's better to use this time to take a coffee, to have a little walk at the playing hall, and then to come back to sit over the board and try to think and to understand the strategic aspects of the position which you have now. And during this course, I will give you many examples of how I myself try to do it, how I try to assess the situation on the board, which characteristics and components I take into account when I do this kind of scanning of the position. Of course, I understand that every position is different, but those many examples, and I'm going to go into detail, pretty much into detail in each of the examples, will give you definitely some clear ideas how to do it. And then it should normally help you doing the same thing in the right way, yourself when you are playing a game. So, and once you understand, once you made this scanning and you have a certain rather clear idea what both players want to do, so the next step would be, figuring out where to go. So, in other words, what is your next move? What should you do next? A very important point, again. Your move usually, in general in chess, your move depends more on what your opponent wants to do next. It's much more than on what you want to do. I would like again to make it very clear. This is a very important concept, and you really need to implement it into your thinking, until it becomes automatic. And if you, with time, it shouldn't take too much time before, it becomes like a reflectory, and then you have this thinking discipline, and you will not need to force yourself, to raise this question in your head. Somehow it will be automatic, But at the beginning, probably it will take a bit of time when you will have to, remind yourself that, okay, now my move, what is the threat, or what is the plan of my opponent. So I will try to explain you now, a certain kind of logical path, and certain move orders. So to say how to do it, at least in my understanding of it, at least how I try to do it myself, and I recommend to do it. And so here it is. So when it's your move and you are thinking, trying to choose your move, I advise you to do it in a kind of systematic way, and to ask the following questions in this precise order. So first, you should try to check if there is a force in continuation which is extremely favorable for you. Yeah, I mean, just to scan the position for tactics, for very clear tactics, or let's say, well, to make it primitive, if you can take a piece without any punishment, then why to think about calculate variations, or try to think about strategies. Yeah, so that is the first thing, the first question which you ask yourself. Okay, can I win, so to say, can I win material, or can I do something clearly profitable for me? Yeah, well, most of the time, if you are playing a good opponent, a strong opponent, this is not the case. Yeah, but still, that must be the first thing you should ask yourself. Then the second, and this is very important, exactly in this order. So the second question you should ask yourself is, there is any threat? Is your opponent threatening anything? Well, I would say from a low level, I would say beginner level is just to check if nothing is hanging, none of your pieces hanging, to of course a higher level, even professional level, just to understand maybe there is a very unpleasant threat. Well, maybe not like winning by force, but something really that something nasty is coming. Yeah, on the next move. Because that would, if there is a clear threat, yeah, that makes your choice, quite limited. So it means you have to do something about it, and again, not to think about the next coming plan of your opponent, plan of yourself. It's just that you have to defend against a particular concrete threat. Again, well, most of the time, at least during this course, most of the positions I'm going to give you, if not all, yeah, there is none. Yeah, that is but still, those two questions should be asked first. So let's check the cases when the answers for those two questions are no. And then the third question, or 2.5 question, comes, which is the most important one in order to find the right move. So the question is, you should always try to understand what is the plan of your opponent, what is he going to do next. Yeah, even if there is no direct threat, but what is his plan? Or let's say maybe he wants to move to transfer his piece somewhere, maybe he wants to open the line. I mean, you really need to understand exactly what is he going to do. And that is already much more difficult part. But again, I insist that should go before you start considering what you want to do. Yeah, because that is, I mean, of course, sometimes it kind of comes together, but in general, this question is more important than the question what is your plan. And then once you understand it, and most of the examples I'm going to give you during this course will be about this, about trying to understand the position, trying to to see and to prevent your opponent from doing something very profitable for him, yeah, in a positional sense mainly. So once you guess it, then of course, then you have a choice. Well, you have to measure yourself, and it's something which comes with experience, with a level, how dangerous is what he's going to do. Even at times you see that he is starting certain plan which in fact is not correct, so okay, then let him do it. So then you kind of have a choice on your next move, whether you should try to do something again about it, so to prevent it, whether you don't find it too dangerous, and or you don't have time to prevent it, so you have to start your own play. Yeah. So and then only after all those questions, sometimes actually the answer to this third question is also no. So your opponent doesn't really have any constructive plan. Of course, it's a nice situation when it's like this, but and then only then you come to the fourth question, to the last question: what am I going to do? What is my plan? I mean, how can I improve my position? And then, okay, so if no, then you are trying to make a move which is improving your position in some way. Yeah. Otherwise, well, but first, of course, you have to. So basically, chess is a game of reaction in a way. Every move of both players which is played is a result of the last move of the opponent. And so that's why actually in chess, the higher the general level of a player is, usually, I mean, the more deeper and further he sees for his opponent. So he can prevent certain threats or certain plans of the opponent better than a lower player, than a weaker player. Yeah, and so that is the one, I would say, the main actually point. I mean, improving in it in this field definitely is one of the most maybe difficult, but the most important part of your chess improvement. Well, I understand that I will not receive a Nobel Prize for this discovery, but as simple as it seems, I have actually noticed that it works. It works, and it quite often helps you finding the best move in a given position. So during the next hours of this course, I'm going to show you a lot of examples which, in my opinion, prove it. Most of those games are games of mine. And it's not because I'm such a unique chess player and a genius. No, just because I remember in most of those cases, most of the games, what was my thinking path and why I played this or that move. So that maybe will be more, will be more useful for you just to hear it from my own, with my own words, commenting my own games. But of course, there are many other games you can find on it. And by the way, there will be few which I really liked, a few examples I'm going to show you from games of other strong players. I'm going to share those positions in certain, I would say, thematic blocks, but with a small variety. I will explain you later what exactly. But it's always going to be about more or less the same, understanding the position in general, and and searching for a best move, finding a best move based on the understanding of the plans of your opponents. So, vamos. Then let's begin with examples where you need to find. We start with this block where you need to find a concrete idea or concrete plan of your opponent and decide what you do about it and trying to prevent it or do something about it. Now, during this lesson 3, I'm going to show you two examples, two games of mine from the 90s where I surprisingly managed well to solve this task. This is a position from my game with white against Jan Timman, Belgrade 1995, good old days. So it's my move, white to play, and try to have a general overview as usual of the position. Try to understand what is going on, what are the main characteristics of the position, and then find the best move using this method of 3.5 questions. So white to play. Well, in general, I would say that the position is not totally clear. I mean, white doesn't have any strategic advantage here. The pawn structure is okay for black. I mean, there are no real big weaknesses. And the main problem of black is definitely, lack of coordination. So if you imagine if, let's say, black's bishop on c8 would get out to f5 somewhere, I don't think black will have a slightest problem. So if white wants to play for a win, he needs to do something rather active, yeah, because he needs to create some threats or to stop black from, getting out with his pieces. So let's ask the questions one after another. First, is there any tactical way of, getting a significant advantage? Well, obviously there is, nothing really. Yeah, maybe white can try a5, some very direct move, but I think I've calculated it a bit. It doesn't seem to be very serious. First of all, there is even queen b4 move, which might be good enough for a draw. But also, if you calculate variations after ba5, knight takes a5, f5. There is a move f5, and the situation is not so clear because the knight cannot go away from e4 because of rook takes e1, and then my knight on a5 will be hanging. So probably I should do something like h3 and then fe, let's say bishop c4 check. I'm getting back this knight, king g7, hg4, maybe queen f6, and doesn't seem like white is having anything special here. Probably it's heading to a draw, the game. So a5 is maybe a bit premature. Then, if there is nothing direct, then you remember, the second question, what is black's threat? Is there a threat? Also, the answer is pretty obviously no, there is no threat. So then we come to the question 2.5 or 3, if you want, is what is black's plan? Yeah, what is he going to do? To answer this question, the simplest method is to imagine that it's black to move. So let me do it like this. Let's say you are playing black, it's your move now. What is the most logical continuation here? I think everybody as black would try to play knight df6 in this position. Yeah, that's extremely logical move. Then the rook might get to from a7 to e7. The bishop goes out via e6, and so black is doing perfectly fine. He equalizes without any problem. So, and otherwise, white can still keep some pressure. So obviously, let's come back from the white side. So we clearly then understand by asking those questions that black's idea on the next move is to play knight df6, and then the move becomes pretty obvious. So we should try to do something probably to stop it in some way if we can. And there is a very efficient way to do it, which is knight bd2. By the way, it is a multifunctional move. Again, because it's not only an important prophylactic move, because black cannot play knight f6 anymore. The pawn on b6 is hanging. But at the same time, it's a part of my plan. Knight on b3 is not doing much. And knight is heading to probably c4, d6, or at least to f3, where it's much more active. So once you see such move, which is, multifunctional, and it's, in fact, it even looks right, then everything is clear. You just make it automatically. But I mean, you, without asking these questions, if you miss the idea of knight df6, then maybe it's a bit more difficult to find the move. And after knight bd2, in fact, black is in quite serious trouble here immediately. So it's this kind of move which is important to find, and I will show you a lot of other examples later on, that those K moves, when you find it and then things are starting to go your way, it turns the game in your favor. And in this particular game, actually, it's pretty surprising even to me that black's position is quite difficult. I think computer is already given like +1 for white here. Because black simply cannot manage to get out with his pieces after knight bd2. So Timman played bishop a6, a very logical move. So he's trying to change bishops to get or to get the bishop into the game. Now bishop c2, obviously. It's not in my plans to change those bishops, and also the idea that I want to play bishop b3 and I start to create quite significant threats on this a2 g8 diagonal. f7 pawn can be weak as well. And black's problem that he still doesn't have knight f6. Again, I can take on b6 simply. So rook b7 was played. Okay, Jan Timman, he insists on this knight f6 idea. He understands that he badly needs it. Now bishop b3. By the way, now you can also see that this bishop on a6 is not actually doing much. It's shooting in the air. I mean, this diagonal is not very important. I mean, this one, a2 g8, and the pressure on f7 pawn is much more significant. So he played knight gf6. It's difficult to find a move for black because white already starts to be threatening all sorts of ideas like knight g5, for example. Knight df6 was another option, but I mean, things are just not working for black tactically. Of course, white can always do something like queen c2 and the c6 pawn is hanging. But there is a more direct way, playing h3, knight takes e4, knight takes e4, rook, now bishop d3, is the only move according to computer, because the knight couldn't move away from g4 because of knight f6 check. And this, it actually looks like it must be simply lost, and white, but in fact, white has a couple of ways just to end up pawn up, but not more than that. Even though it must be enough for a win, there is a bishop c2 option, but maybe the simplest and the most human is knight g5, knight f6, queen c3. Attacking the bishop, also the pawn on c6. So computer finds some miraculous way to not to lose, at least by force. So he's playing knight e4, queen takes c6, rook b7. Something quite difficult to find over the board for a human player. But after knight takes e4, bishop takes e4, okay, if queen takes b6, he at least he has rook b7. That's his idea. But white can just play queen f6 and he's pawn up and normally must convert this pawn. So after bishop b3, that's why Timon played knight gf6. And now, yes, also an instructive point here, because there are lots of very tempting options for white here. And I think I remember I calculated knight g5, knight d5, and tried to make it work. But yeah, there is nothing really forcing, even if white is definitely has a lot of initiative here. But then I realized that there is a very, very annoying move. I don't need to hurry. I don't need to try to win by force. Rook ac1. Yeah, all of a sudden now black has a problem with c6 pawn. He just doesn't have time. If you give black one move, maybe he can manage to get out playing bishop d3 and with some drawing chances, but he's never in time. I mean, now that is what I meant by the beginning, that white has to play very active. So I mean, until the end of the game, black never has actually time anymore to stabilize his position, to get certain coordination of his pieces. Rook c1. Yeah, now, situation is pretty bad for black, actually. It's not clear how black is planning to defend his c6 pawn. For instance, if rook c7, then white has d5 because of this pin on the c line, and situation is pretty critical for black. Knight takes c4, knight takes c4, and c5, but that is obviously pretty bad. d6, rook a7. I guess many ways for white to be winning here, but the simplest is knight g5, and according to machine, again, the only way for black to play is just to give up a pawn, and I guess with the d6 pawn, the win is pretty trivial here. Then what else? Computer is finding, of course, that is a problem, why it's so difficult to play against computer, and why they are so strong, because they find, even in such an awful position, they find some tactical resources. Well, they just calculate variations very well, like rook bb8, which is probably the best move. I mean, I don't think that it would cross human's mind at all, such move, and it is actually still not enough to save the game, but it's this kind of moves humans are not capable to find very often. The idea is that after rook takes c6, black has knight takes c4. After rook takes c4, there are some chances now for black for some reason. So the best is knight takes c4, bishop b7, and d5. What is good about working with computers, that it finds resources, and it also finds refutation of his defense at the same time. So d5 is very strong, because after bishop takes c6, d takes c6, now the knight is hanging, and the knight cannot go out because of knight f6 check. So after d5, black has to play queen b4, and now simple queen b1, which leaves white with healthy extra pawn and position with a good winning chances, even though computer is playing rook bc8, and I think you still have to work hard for white to win it, at least because black got some activity, but pawn is a pawn. In any case, that is difficult to find, and Jan Timman, as a normal human being, just protected the pawn playing rook c8. And now I would also like you to think a bit on this position and to find the most accurate way for white to get the winning advantage. Well, now it's time already to calculate variations. It is also important when you have a winning or close to winning position, is to not to miss a moment to strike. Yeah, but once if you do it, you should really calculate. I mean, you should really feel this moment when to calculate or when you can play still a nice, useful move. Of course, white can play any move like queen c3 and still have a very significant advantage. But knight takes f6 check, that's what I played. Knight takes f6 d5. That is basically finishing the game. It requires a bit of calculation, but not too complicated, because it's even visually, you feel that there must be something. I mean, it doesn't seem like that black will have a defense. It's just that there is too big difference in the activity of the pieces. So d5, knight takes d5 was played. Well, there is queen d6 move. But here everything works, all tactics works in white favor, and that is not an accident. Yeah, that's absolutely logical. It must be like this in such positions, because as I've mentioned already earlier, if you play well, if your position is good, most of the time all the tactics works in your favor. So here white can win by force after d takes c6, rook takes c6, rook takes c6, queen takes c6, rook c1, queen d6 is only square, otherwise you lose the knight on f6, and now knight e4. Small tactics, and the idea is that after knight takes e4 there is rook c8 check and white wins. So knight takes d5 and knight e4. Simply threatening bishop takes d5, knight f6 check. And well, frankly, the only variation I had to see here is that if black goes queen b4, which is a way to protect the knight, yeah, because bishop takes d5 is not possible now. The queen is hanging on b2, and but here white has knight f6 check. Black has to take on f6, and bishop takes f7 check, and then taking the queen with the victory. Well, the rest is clearly white is clearly winning. But again, analyzing this game recently with the computer, I was kind of surprised, amazed, and it made me smile. The defense, well, the best defense, even if it's losing, but still, which computer finds in this position, which is knight b4. Very cool, quiet move. Knight f6 check, king h8. Well, it's obvious that white is winning here, but still, it's amazing how computers manage to find resources even in such totally disastrous situations. And in fact, there is only one very clear way for white to win. Otherwise, black still has some chances. But white can win with knight d5 check, f6, knight takes b4. Strangely enough, there is nothing better than that for white. Queen takes b4, and now actually queen takes f6 check, rook g7 is not completely winning. So the best move is rook e6. But after rook e6, things are really getting very difficult for black. Too many threats. The best variation is queen f8, rook takes f6, queen g7, rook c6, because another trouble is that rook takes c6, there is rook f8 mate because of the pin, yeah. So yeah, now rook a8, and now any move is good. Even h4 computer likes to play, because black is practically stalemated. He's giving up another pawn, just moving his rook from b7. White takes on b6, and 2 pawns up, completely winning position. But still, it's kind of instructive that even if you have a terrible position, well, try still to find some resources. Chess is a game with a lot of defensive resources. So sometimes some miraculous moves like knight b4 might save a game. That is not the case here. Well, Timon was already, if I remember well, he was in quite significant time trouble. He played rook d8, and now with the same actually idea that after bishop takes d5, cd5, knight f6 check, king h8 is not losing immediately at least. Even if white can win with rook e8, rook takes e8, knight takes e8 check, the only move is f6, knight takes f6, rook f7, some amazing resources, but not enough. Knight takes g5 check, king g8, queen takes b6, simply 2 pawns up. But again, yeah, I think I choose the simplest solution, which is rook takes c6, simply threatening bishop takes d5, and just too many threats. Black is totally lost. Queen b4. Well, this is just to play a move in time trouble. Knight f6 check. You see the same motive. Knight takes f6. If knight takes 6, bishop takes f7 check, and queen takes b4. So king f8, knight takes h7 check. Why not to take a pawn? Knight f6 check, king f8, and now many moves are winning, but rook e4 is is really finishing it. I mean, it's of course complete disaster. Black's position, and here Jan Timman resigned. So you see, that is the first example of this method, how to find those very important key moves, and you see, and this is just one out of many which I'm going to show you, how such moves can totally turn the game. Because if white wouldn't have played knight bd2, if I wouldn't have found this move, probably very likely the game would end in a draw, and black would be able to equalize within next few moves. And after knight bd2, the position became difficult, and also in a practical sense, I would say it was almost lost, because after bishop c2, bishop b3, it is, even if you're a computer, it's difficult to defend, and if humanly almost impossible. This is a position from my game with white against Anatoly Karpov, Dortmund, first round of Dortmund tournament 1997. A very memorable game for me, and a memorable tournament, because I went on winning it with actually a very high performance. I think I made +5 in 9 rounds in this super tournament. So first round, Anatoly Karpov was still FIDE world champion at that time, and a very top player. So white to play. Imagine this situation: you are having white, you're playing against Anatoly Karpov. Try not to panic, collect your thoughts, and come up with a certain general assessment of the situation, and plan. So what you are going to do with white, and on top of it, what is often even more important, how exactly you are going to execute this plan. So let me meditate about this position. It is strategically complex, quite double-edged strategically, because obviously white has a certain space advantage. He has a pawn on e5, which is limiting black's options. But black has no weaknesses, and he has potential counterplay in the center and on the queen side. So what black is going to do is removing his knight from c6, then probably trying to go c5. He will have some options once the knight is out, let's say somewhere. He has options playing queen c6 or queen a4, so he will try to organize certain play on this side of the board. And for white, well, it's pretty logical to try to organize a direct attack on the king, because white has a certain concentration of forces in the center and potentially on the king side. Black's king is a bit lonely, yeah, not so many pieces are protecting this king. So I would say that that part of the task is not too difficult. So white should try to organize some offense on the king side. Then how exactly to do it? Of course, and that is again a very important point, which is a main subject of this course, is to watch out for your opponent resources. Here, of course, once you decide, well, okay, I'm going to attack on the king side, the most logical move and temptation, to play quickly g4. But, and that makes a lot of sense because white wants to play g5, potentially king h2, rook g1, and okay, organize an attack on the king side. But that would be quite a significant mistake because to have the right plan is not always enough. Actually, even more important is the execution, the correct execution of the plan. Why g4 is a mistake? Because black has a very important move, knight e7. So the idea is that now this knight is getting into the defense because white cannot really manage to organize his attack without playing g5, whether immediately, whether one move or two moves later. But after g5, let's say if he plays it right here, black simply gets his knight to f5, and this knight is just blocking all white's attack. Let's say g8, g8. And it's hard to find any way to create real threats against the king because this knight on f5 is just defending everything. Or let's say white can start with bishop c1, attacking the pawn on f7, then black would play king g8. Now, of course, rook f4 doesn't work. Trying to take on f7 because of knight d5, protecting the pawn, and then attacking the rook on f4 and pawn on c3. So this obviously doesn't work. Then white's only logical continuation is to get g5 and still knight f5. Even here, g8, g8, even with a king on g8. Not much white can really do in this position. He can give check. Visually, he has some kind of play on g line, but it's not quite clear who is going to attack on the g line at the end of the day because black will play king h7, bishop e7, rook g8. And he has some ideas of queen a4. At some point, once his king is on h7, he will have queen c6. And it seems to me that, and to computer, what is even more important, that black is taking over. He is already slightly better. So his counterplay is going to start, and white's attack is not leading anywhere. That's why the best move here is what I played actually is bishop e3, a very important prophylactic move. Those moves, I'm again trying to attract your attention on those moves. Very often they're the turning point of the game. Whether you find it and then everything starts to go your way, whether not, and you can get worse. In such positions, which are kind of strategically unbalanced and pretty double-edged, it's extremely important. But to find those moves, again, you need to ask the right questions. So if you notice that knight e7 is black's idea and very important idea, then bishop e3 comes quite naturally. And all of a sudden, black is experiencing some serious problems because it is really in this particular position, it's really essential for black to get his knight into the defense. Here he cannot anymore manage it because let's say if he is playing king g8, trying to go knight e7, then white has rook g4. Now white is threatening bishop takes h6 to take the pawn, king h8 back. Now rook f4. f7 is hanging, so king g8 and g4 already. So with this maneuver, white managed to stop knight e7 because, of course, then the pawn on f7 is hanging. Also, by the way, bishop e7 as well. And well, what else than knight a5? And now already having the knight on the other side of the board, white just goes king h2 and then rook g1, g5, and his attack is extremely powerful. So after bishop e3, Karpov played knight a5 immediately and g4. So now the situation is totally different. White has a very, very strong, powerful attack, and black is in quite a significant trouble. Knight c4. Still, of course, situation is quite sharp because black is preparing his play with c5 and certain counterplay in the center. So white has to be precise and rather energetic. So g5 immediately. I mean, no need to prepare it because if you will be preparing it with king h2, etc., black might get time exactly to create counterplay. So g5. Now, yeah, hg is already quite dangerous. Bishop takes g5, bishop e7, and let's say rook g4 now. Takes on g5, rook takes g5, and because again, if the knight would have been on f5, everything would be fine for black. But the knight is on c4. Okay, trying to create counterplay, but that is less important than protecting his own king. And yeah, first of all, the threat is h6, and simply, let's say, king h2, rook g1. I have big doubts black will manage to survive this attack on the king side. That's why Karpov played knight takes e3. Yeah, by the way, of course, now the rest of the game is not really a subject of this particular course. It's more about complications, attack on the king. But first of all, as I've mentioned in my introduction, I will try to give you some more. When I have a chance to show you some other aspects of the game. And in any case, it was quite an entertaining game, so I think you will also enjoy it as well. So I decided to show it until the end. So knight takes e3. Now I played f takes e3, and I think it's a good decision. I mean, queen e3 is also pretty strong. hg, queen takes g5. Of course, white has a serious initiative. But after f takes e3, of course, I had to calculate variation. I had to make sure that I can take back the pawn. But strategically, it is a better decision because, first of all, now my center is very powerful. So all those c5 ideas trying to create counterplay in the center are not so dangerous anymore, because after c5, black takes c takes d4, I would just take c takes d4. Yeah, my center is fully under control. And also I'm opening the f file for my rook. So another open file for my direct attack. But still things are not totally clear. I mean, black has defensive resources. hg, rook g4. Of course, I had to make sure that I'm going to take back the pawn. Otherwise, if black can just protect it, he would be doing well. But after rook g4, he's not in time to play bishop e7 because the f7 pawn is hanging. So queen e7, rook f1. Well, attacking the pawn on f7, rook d7, queen g3. Now the g5 pawn is attacked. f6 is what Karpov played. Scary, of course, but what else? Because if I just take on g5, probably it's going to be mate rather soon. Black can try to pick up this c3 pawn, but then his queen is getting out of the defense, and I believe rook takes g5, queen takes c3, knight f4. Then h6 probably is coming. I doubt black can survive this attack. So f6 was played. And now, yeah, I think Karpov was already in I mean, had not so much time left, so approaching the time trouble, and I decided to play some kind of imaginative and unexpected move. In fact, the simple h6, the most logical h6, was quite strong. I remember I was not sure after gh, ef6, queen h7, knight e5, rook d5. I was not completely sure if black cannot organize a defense, because at least now he has his g5, h6 pawns which are protecting his king, his pawn up, even if of course white has a very powerful play and so on. But yeah, computer says that it was because after e4, I mean, black can try to play rook a5. So I thought, okay, maybe it's not so totally clear, or rook b5 maybe as well. I don't know, because here f7 might be quite good. So, but yeah, that was good. I think computer says that it was close to winning. I decided to play e4. For some reason, my idea was to do the same on the next move, h6, the same operation, then take on f6, play knight e5, and to stop rook d5. And another idea is ef, gf, e5, yeah, to get another pawn into attack. It's humanly looks like black cannot really survive this attack, but things are not so easy if you are a computer playing black. Actually, strangely enough, after c5, black has had quite considerable drawing chances here. But again, that is, by the way, one of the points which I was talking about in my introduction. You know, there is a big difference when you are looking at the game with a computer, or you're playing yourself over the board, even for the top players. I mean, frankly, c5 looks so bad. It's humanly, you know, you just don't believe you will not get mated after c5. And that's why Karpov didn't play it. Maybe he didn't see a clear refutation even, but it just, you cannot believe, it's very difficult to defend such position. So you see, my point is that when you're looking at games, there is always a temptation to assess it in a computer way, you know, like, okay, that was a blunder, c5 would be enough for a draw. But you have to understand that it's one thing is objective, let's say, computer assessment, when, you know, a computer who can calculate extremely precisely and extremely far, and a human play over the board. So, you know, if you assess the games just purely by the computer assessments of best moves, then probably Tal would have been an awfully weak player, and because many of his combinations were not working objectively, yeah. But it was extremely difficult over the board to refute it, and he was winning lots of games. Same goes with Kasparov, yeah. So so you should really understand that there is a huge difference. And even if computer says that c5, for example, was probably, not completely sure, but probably enough to hold the draw, I will show you now variations, and it's you will understand how difficult, if not impossible, to play like this with black over the board. So c5, now h6 is very logical, and of course, yeah, my idea was that after gh6, ef, queen h7, knight e5. For some reason, I thought it was important that the rook doesn't get to d5, and it's true that white is practically winning here. But computer manages to defend after cd4, hg, bishop g7. Well, you know, here playing black, especially close to time trouble, normally you just stop because you don't believe you will not get mated here. I mean, it just looks like mate is coming. For example, ef, bishop f6, e5, bishop g7. Okay, white can take on g5, this naked king on h8, all white's heavy pieces are close, but rook g5, bishop h6, of course, computer, he manages to find the best defense, and after rook g6, I think computer is playing queen h7, and I think finally is holding this position. Another very dangerous attempt is queen h3 check, king g8, rook g2. Trying to go rook h2 and queen h7, ef, and just to mate in this straightforward fashion. But now, don't ask me why, but computer finds the only move, I think, f5. Almost impossible to play like this, because ef5 looks very strong. I mean, I don't know. Again, it's a computer play, but somehow, let's say after rook h2, he plays f4, which is also only move. Queen h7 check, king f8, knight takes f4, gf4, rook f4, rook, queen f7. And strangely enough, okay, white is still better, but maybe black has a certain drawing chances in this position. Anyways, that is of course very difficult to find. But what Karpov played queen a3, which is humanly also makes a lot of sense, to try to organize counterplay, because now once my pawn is on e4, black will take on c3 and then taking on d4, taking lots of pawns. So that was not really a mistake. Actually, the mistake came later after ef6. Now Karpov played queen takes c3. Again, almost impossible to find the best defense for black here, which would not guarantee black a draw, but there was some chances still. So computer advises to play g takes f6, knight f4. That was my idea, of course. So the point is that black cannot take on f4 because of course, check on h7 and queen g6 mate. c5. Now, yeah, the best move, if not the only move. And again, the same story. Well, you know, if you play over the board, knight g6 check, rook takes f6, rook g5, it must be mate, yeah. But no way, no. d5, white's best move. And now another amazing resource, c4. Again, impossible to understand why it is good, why it is saving the game, but yeah, computer cannot find any straight, clear way to win the game here for white. And the best variation he gives is also quite funny. Knight g6 check, king h7 now, queen f3. Still looks terrible for black, but he has only, I think, defense is bishop g7, h6, and now the final point of the defense is bishop h8, knight takes h8, and queen e7. And here, well, probably black has nothing better than taking on f6, and I think in this, at the end of the day, he is pawn up in a rook endgame, but with quite serious drawing chances for black. Again, yeah, I mean, you can find it only, you know, only by luck in human play. But still, objectively, that was black's best chance. Karpov played queen takes c3, perfectly human move, but he missed one important nuance here. White is going f7. Now, if you take on d4, king h1, then rook has to retreat, and then I have knight e5, a very important move, and followed by knight g6, rook g5 at some point, and it's pretty bad for black. So rook c8, that was Karpov's idea, because now he wants to take on d4 with check. And if knight e5, of course, the idea is to change queens. Queen takes g3 check, rook takes g3, rook takes d4, and the situation is totally unclear. White still has, of course, a very powerful pawn on f7, but black has, well, some extra pawns, and I don't know who is better and why here. But I think Karpov missed a very powerful resource, d5. So it's very important for white to close this d line, that the rooks are not getting out, the black rooks. ed5, e5. So black is 2 pawns up, but completely lost, yeah, because white now has a direct attack on the king. C5, seemingly the only chance to stay in the game at least, yeah, because black wants to play c4 and okay, to organize counterplay, attacking the knight on d3 and maybe to change queens if he is lucky. Here we were already in quite a serious time trouble, and if I remember well, we played without increment. Maybe even we were still playing with mechanic clock, with this Gardé old-fashioned clock. That I don't remember exactly, but I remember that we were really in time trouble. And actually I missed forced win here, although what I played was good enough. It still is winning, and even in a way in a more entertaining fashion. But what I missed, it was quite funny. But of course, with a couple of minutes on the clock and it's move 34, you're getting, a bit panicked. Not really panicked, but you have to take decisions. Yeah, and rook g5, I remember I tried to calculate c4 only move, h6, and that was my plan. I thought it's just mate, yeah. But then I saw g6 all of a sudden, and I got confused. Rook takes g6, queen takes d3, and after rook g8 check, king h7, there is no mate on g6. That was my idea, yeah, to give mate on g6, but then there is a queen on d3. And after I remember I was calculating rook g7 check here, but king h8, and I couldn't see a win, and the clock is ticking. And then only after the game I just realized, of course, I have rook h8 check, which is quite a beautiful mate. King takes h8, queen g8 mate. So okay, being very short on time, I decided to play rook f3, but it's a very good move. White is completely winning after rook f3. So c4, black has, nothing else to do, then that's his only and last chance. Knight f2, queen e1 check, king g2. And now it's a pity that Karpov, of course, he saw the following line, but he didn't want to play it, unfortunately. But of course, my calculation was c3, rook takes g5. Well, black has no defense anymore. He doesn't have any way to protect his king. So his only chance is to try to get the c-pawn, to queen the c-pawn. c2, h6. And that is quite nice to mate, your opponent when he has two queens on the board. For example, c1 queen, hg check, bishop takes g7, queen h3 check, and queen takes h6 mate. Or g6, rook takes g6, and now this is what I wanted, because now c1 queen, rook g8 check, king h7, and queen g6 mate. Again, there is rook h8, of course, which I missed, but here I have my queen g6. So yeah, white is completely winning, and Karpov with his flag about to fall. He just played bishop e7 here, just to play some move. But of course, rook takes g5 still wins. And here, I think he resigned. Well, I just want to take on g7. And in case of bishop takes g5, f8 queen. Okay, just take on f8, king h7, queen takes g5, threatening queen g6 mate. And at the end of the day, I'm even simply a piece up. So that was a very memorable game for me. Quite a nice one. But what is important is this bishop e3 move. So it's another example after my game with Timman, which I have just shown you earlier, that this move, once you find it, things are starting to go your way. And how do you find it? Well, there is an intuitive way, but sometimes intuition doesn't work in such situation, because basically intuition probably will tell you that you have to play g4. So then asking those questions, yes, finally getting to this question, what is black's next move? What is black's plan? Again, if you want doing this and trying to imagine it's black to move, yeah, probably knight e7. That is the move I would seriously consider playing. So then you see that knight e7 is the idea. And then such moves like bishop e3, important moves, are, well, not too difficult to find. Okay, so that's enough for this lesson 3. There was a lot of interesting, hopefully for you, information. And we will continue. I will continue torturing you with my own games. So on the same thematics, prophylactics, and understanding the main ideas of your opponent.